Bakay, 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 bakay. Hiena, 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 Bakay, ay, bakay, 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 bakay. besibiza, 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 wozani, bizobona G20, besibiza mama, besibiza mama, besibiza mama, nababantu besibiza mama, besibiza mama, besibiza mama, wozani, bizobona G20.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, if we could all please take our seats.
There's a lot of, but who is starting here? Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are requesting protocol to ensure that all the dignitaries are seated in front. We are requesting everyone to be at ease so that we can give the indication whether our lead delegations may enter. At this moment, ladies and gentlemen, I'm one of the co-program directors. I'm Alvin Bottas. I'm the Deputy Minister responsible for international relations and cooperation. So thank you very much for your attention. Luanda.
Sanbonani, sanbonani nonke nisaphila nje. Webakithi sanbonani, sanbonani, sanbonani. Angus. Sanbonani, sanbonani nonke nisaphila nje. Webakithi sanbonani, sanbonani, Sitangene Chosa Ni Sichabulele Sipumabutelena Sitangene Chosa Sichabulele Sunshine Gomas Watina Awele Sunshine Gomage Watina Owela Uma Africa Kumage Yo
seat to welcome Deputy President Paul Mashatile. If we could all just rise up to receive our Deputy President. You may now take your seats. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please kindly take your seats. We urge you once again, ladies and gentlemen, to kindly please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome back on stage my co-program director, Deputy Minister Alvin Boitis, as we will begin the program.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Rwanda, for that welcoming. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the land of Nelson Mandela, the rainbow nation of Desmond Tutu. Good things are happening in South Africa, ladies and gentlemen. The G20 has arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first acknowledge our dignitaries' presence here. Of course, we want to acknowledge the Premier of Gauteng Province, Premier Lesufi Panyasa Panya. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, let me acknowledge the members of the South African Cabinet. We wish to acknowledge the members of the National Executive of Government. We have amongst us, ladies and gentlemen, delegations from the South African Parliament, represented by both houses, members of the National Assembly, and permanent delegates from the National Council of Provinces. Importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we have heads of diplomatic missions present here. That is your ambassadors, high commissioners, consul generals that are present here today, head of international organizations, in particular representatives from the United Nations. I have acknowledged, ladies and gentlemen, with privilege, the former AU Commission Chairperson amongst us, Dr. Dlamini Zuma. Her presence today is strengthened, of course, ladies and gentlemen, by the Chief Executive Officer of AUDA NEPAD, Mrs. Bekele Thomas. Thank you very much, Madam. We have amongst us also, ladies and gentlemen, from the African Union, Ambassador William Kerry, the head of the Secretariat at the AU, in particular responsible for ECOSOC. Thank you very much for joining us, Ambassador. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, from the United Nations, the UN, the Director of the Regional Bureau for Africa, from the UN Development Program, the UNDP, we have Ms. Ahuna Ezira Konwa being with us. Welcome, Madam. Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, we would ask everyone to maintain a moment of silence as we prepare for the introduction of two anthems, ladies and gentlemen. The South African anthem and the anthem of the African Union. And immediately when those two anthems has been completed, there will be a poem that will be rendered. And immediately thereafter, Luanda will take back the podium. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
If you could please all rise up for the national anthems, please.
misava. Ngulumelelo wu tlhontlha ka varhangeri ku angula eka mintlhontlho ya tiko reru ni misava hi ku angarhela. Ngizwa amazwi abantu bethu carried by the civil societies. The Values 20, Interfaith 20, the Disability 20, to name just a few who strive to ensure that every voice is heard and no one is left at the doorstep of progress. Impumaulo wa G20 Social Summit, a platform by the people, for the people. This is not just a summit, but a gathering of humanity, where the drums of inclusivity echoes from the city lights to the dusty streets of Kamatiani, Soweto, Kukuletu, Khayelitsha, where abogogo nomkhulu, to young children, the youth, women and persons with disabilities are recognized as thought leaders, innovators, and architects of the world that we are building. And we are gathered to honor the wisdom and visions that governs diverse communities. We are gathered to demonstrate that leadership is not a seat to be occupied, but a torch to be lifted high for others. We are here to remind the world that true development iqala at the foundation, at the hearts of people, for it is not measured by profit, by how inclusive the economic growth is. We are here to confront all that affects us, to call each problem by its name, from gender-based violence to social injustice, the silent battles of unemployment and poverty, food insecurity to climate change. We are here to lay it all on the table, for it is only when we open up that the seeds of change are planted. We are here to promote partnerships and collaboration, to forge solidarity, uphold equality, and champion for sustainability. From the heart of Brazil, we carried the torch across oceans, not only for world markets to trade, but to shape the future of children in marginalized areas. We carried the torch to shape the future of young entrepreneurs, Kokasi, who hustle every day from dusk till dawn. Umtita opushitroli ama-veg, abomama who rise with the morning rush to sell amagunyane acha at the taxi rank. We carried the torch for the betterment of our people. And in this moment of history, as Africa takes her seat at the G20 table for the first time upon the soil of Mzansi Africa, the cradle of humankind, South Africa, the birthplace of human cultures, cultures of Banaba Malawa Sibilo. When history records of this moment, may it say that when G20 came in South Africa, vir die eerste keer die wêreld getransformeer. Welcome to the G20 Social Summit.
Good things are happening in South Africa. Another round of applause for our poet, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a civil society conference. This is the G20 Social Summit. So I'd like to hear from civil society. Sanbonani, Molweni, Goeiedag, Niyaphila. Ngiyanizwa kodwa angizwa kahle. Angizwa kahle. Nikhona civil society. Round of applause for yourselves, please. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Luanda Mpongose, and I'm the co-program director for today's Social Summit. And I am also joined on stage by sign language interpreters that you'll see besides us. And I'd like to acknowledge them. Andi Swakebashe, Fortune Madlala, and Melinda Botha. A round of applause for them as they're about to usher us into a very incredible summit. I'd like to also acknowledge different sectors of society joining us here today, really to make their voices count as civil society in the G20 process. Throughout the year, as we've held this presidency, there's been lots of questions regarding why this moment matters for South Africa. What will the regular person gain from this moment? And today is your chance to come and make your voice heard as we prepare for the Leaders Summit. I'd also like to acknowledge groups from sports, groups from arts and cultural groups that are joining us today and entertaining us and making today so significant. I'd like to acknowledge the religious groups joining us today, as well as the traditional leaders and traditional groups with us in this moment. I'd like to, before we move on with our program, to call upon my co-program director to also make some acknowledgements and introductions as we move ahead with the program. Thank you.
Yabulela, thank you very much, Merci beaucoup, Luanda. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my singular honor just to introduce to our participants the co-conveners of the G20 Social Summit. The first convener, ladies and gentlemen, is the former United Nations Under-Secretary General and Executive Director of the UN Women. She is also, ladies and gentlemen, a PhD graduate from the University of Warwick in the United Kingdom. And importantly for South Africa, ladies and gentlemen, she served as our former Deputy President, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we have amongst us the former Premier of Gauteng Province, the former Minister of Arts and Culture, the current leader of government business, and the leader of the National Executive of Government in Parliament, Mr. Paul Mashatile, the Deputy President of South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, our welcoming address will be done by the man that made education to be fashionable in the economic heartland of South Africa. He is, ladies and gentlemen, a recipient of the Albert Luthuli Award bestowed on him by former President Thabo Mbeki. He is, ladies and gentlemen, the Premier of the host province of Gauteng, Premier Panyaza Lesufi. Welcome. Thank you very much, Premier Lesufi.
Oi, oi, G20, oi, oi. Oi, oi, South Africa, oi, oi. Oi, oi, civil society, oi, oi. Amandla. Thank you so much, program directors. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate the presence of our Deputy President, His Excellency Paul Mashatile. I want to acknowledge the presence of our co-conveners, the leadership of civil society, ministers and deputy ministers, members of the diplomatic corps, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, G20 is here in the African soil, and it will be the best. We can now feel it. We can now see it. We can now touch it. With or without them, we are proceeding. We are not only ready to welcome heads of states, but we are ready to welcome everyone who has arrived in our country. We told the world, like we did with the Soccer World Cup 2010, the G20 in the African soil will be memorable, it will be beautiful, it will be unstoppable. This first G20 in an African soil will deepen the cooperation and will ensure all nations come together with one goal: to make the world a better world. We are proud to welcome you all, but most importantly, we are proud that we'll urge you that together we must build one solidarity, that together we must build equality, that together we must build sustainability. We will indeed conquer. We will indeed come out with the best resolutions that the world will remember forever, but most importantly, we will dance, sing, and debate together. Welcome to Gauteng. It starts here. Thank you so much. Thanks for your attention.
Oi, oi, Gauteng, how oi? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a G20 held on African soil for the very first time. So I think it is appropriate that we then also hear from African civil society. And who we will welcome on stage next will be Dr. William Karu, Head of Secretariat for the African Union, ECOSOC. He holds a PhD or is a PhD candidate at the University of Stellenbosch in Cape Town in South Africa, pursuing doctoral studies in development planning and public administration, and has a master's degree in strategic management from the University of Derby in the UK. He has more than 20 years experience in international development, serving in countries such as Ghana, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, and presently in Zambia. Can we give him a round of applause as he comes up on stage to deliver his remarks?
Thank you very much. I thought I was graduating today with my PhD. Excellency, let me start by recognizing the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, the Mayor, the UN Assistant Secretary General and Director of UNDP Regional Bureau, the G20 co-convener, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegate representatives of civil society across the globe, and also all civil society organization leaders, including the ECOSOC presiding officer, brothers and sisters. It is with profound honor and deep sense of historic responsibility that I stand before you today, speaking on behalf of the 1.8 billion Africans, both from the continent and the diaspora. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you warm greetings from the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council of the African Union, the voice of the African civil society within the continental governance architecture, representing the aspirations, struggles, and triumphs of grassroots communities across our 55 member states and the diaspora. We are gathered here today at a historic juncture of global governance, which we are about to shape together through the G20 Social Summit Declaration that will emerge from our gathering here. Let me begin by expressing my profound gratitude to the Republic of South Africa for its visionary leadership in hosting this G20 Social Summit under the transformative theme of solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Africa's G20 Summit is a statement to the world that we are no longer content to be observers of our own destiny, but we are builders of a new global order. Excellencies, let us speak candidly. The current architecture of global governance was constructed in an era where Africa was left aside. The institutions that purport to govern our collective future were designed in the aftermath of conflicts we did not initiate, in rooms where our voice were absent, and according to principles that often contradict our lived realities. This results into a world order that perpetuates rather than rectify historical injustice. Consider these stark realities below. Africa holds 30% of the world's mineral reserves, possesses 60% of the world's arable land, and is home to the youngest population on earth, and yet we remain on the periphery of global economic decision-making. Our continent contributes less than 4% of global greenhouse emissions, yet we bear catastrophic brunt of climate change. We possess the resources that power the digital revolution, yet we are positioned as consumers rather than creators of technological future. This is not a call for charity or concession. This is a demand for justice. This is an insistence that the global order must be reimagined, reconstructed, and rebuilt on foundation of genuine equity, mutual respect, and shared prosperity. The old paradigm of development assistance predicated on dependency must give way to partnership rooted in dignity and reciprocity. The time has come of Africa transition from being a subject of global policy to being the principal author of it. For far too long, decisions affecting our people, our resources, and our futures have been made in capitals far from our shores. For far too long, we have been reactive and responding to crises manufactured elsewhere, adapting to frameworks imposed upon us, accepting narratives written about us rather than by us. Through Agenda 2063, the African continent, a free trade area, and the forthcoming decade of African reparation, we are charting a course towards self-determination. Distinguished participants, if this new world order is to be legitimized, it must be built with the active participation of civil society. Government alone cannot engineer the transformation. We seek the private sector. We know you cannot alone guarantee equity. International institutions alone cannot guarantee accountability. It is the civil society that provides the moral compass and the grassroots legitimacy essential for sustainable change. ECOSOC stands as the institutional bridge between the aspiration of the grassroots communities and the policy corridors of the African Union. In the context of this G20 Social Summit, civil society brings what formal institutions often lack: proximity to reality. When we discuss food security, we bring the perspective of smallholder farmers facing drought. When we debate digital transformation, we amplify the concerns of communities lacking basic connectivity. When we deliberate on social protection, we carry the stories of informal workers without safety net. Our participation is not a courtesy, it is a necessity. As we embark on these 3 days of deliberation, I call upon all stakeholders present to approach this summit with the seriousness it deserves. It is our earnest appeal to the G20 member states. We need to recognize that Africa's participation through South Africa is not a favor extended to us, but a necessity for your own legitimacy. A G20 without meaningful African engagement is incomplete and ultimately ineffective. Our challenges are global challenges. Our solutions are global solutions. Excellencies, distinguished guests, we stand at a crossroad. One path leads to the perpetuation of an inequitable global order where Africa remains marginalized despite its centrality to global prosperity. The other path leads to a restructured international system where solidarity is not a rhetoric, but a practice, where equality is not aspiration, but reality, where sustainability is not a slogan, but a standard. Let this G20 Social Summit be remembered for its impact on the ordinary African citizen. Yours in solidarity, I thank you.
Viva Africa, viva! Viva Africa, viva! esteemed ladies and gentlemen, we are also joined today by another one of our co-conveners, Minister Kumbutso Chabeni, who is seated right in front. If you can also give her a round of applause. Coming up next is reflections from an engagement groups. The G20 has 13 formal engagement groups and other informal groupings that have, throughout the course of this presidency, tried to inform what will then be presented later this week to the President to please carry on to the G20 Leaders Summit. Representing one of those engagement groups, we are delighted to welcome Professor Nanya Bolamula, who will speak on behalf of the engagement groups. Round of applause as she comes up, please.
Thank you, program chairs. I stand on all protocol observed. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, brother and sisters. It is with deep humility but determination that I rise today on behalf of the 13 official G20 engagement groups. I would like people in the engagement groups to please stand up so that we can congratulate them on a job well done. I am Professor Nanya Bolamula. I'm head of delegation and co-chair of W20 2025, Women 20. Women's rights are human rights. We gather here today, not in silos, but as a choir with many different voices. We gather not to compete for attention, but to converge in our common purpose. This is a moment to ask, what kind of world are we building, and for whom? We meet at a time of compounding crises: climate collapse, democratic erosion, backsliding on human rights, economic precarity, and deepening inequalities. But we also meet at a time of opportunity, where the architecture of global governance can be reimagined and not only repaired. We need a new world. The engagement groups have long been the conscience of the G20. We are the ones who ask the difficult questions. We speak from the margins. We carry stories that do not fit neatly into communiques. Today we bring a call to rehumanize policy. We bring the urgency of care economies, of gender-responsive financing, of systems that see women as workers and leaders and not followers. We bring the fire of youth and intergenerational justice, a demand that the future be co-designed and not inherited in crisis. We bring the power of grassroots wisdom, of communities who know that dignity is not a luxury, but it is a right. We bring the voice of workers, those who sustain our economies but are too often excluded from the benefits of our economies. We bring evidence, integrity, and the courage to speak truth to power. We bring innovation and strategy to translate vision into action. We bring the moral imperative to center childhood in policy, not as a future investment, but as a present priority. We bring the wisdom of water and the land to recognize that the health of this planet is inseparable from our own health, from our human well-being. We bring ethical clarity, a reminder that governance without values is governance without legitimacy. Together, we are not just stakeholders, we are co-authors of a global agenda. As a South African, I speak from the ethos of Ubuntu. I am because you are. This principle must guide us. It must shape our metrics, our mandates, and our multilateral relationships. Because without care, without inclusion, and without emotional intelligence, we do not have development, we merely have control and extraction. As a caregiver and a mother, I speak from lived experience. I know that policy is not abstract. It is felt in our bodies, in the exhaustion of women who hold up entire communities, in the silence of children who are not seen or heard, in the resilience of those who continue to show up even when systems fail them. Today, we ask this summit to do more than listen. We ask you to align. Let us move from consultation to co-creation, from rhetoric to action, and let this G20 be remembered for its courage in the face of adversity. We are ready, we are united, and we're here to build a world where every woman, every child, every worker, every ocean, every value is held in dignity. Together, let us leave here with a covenant of care, caring for one another, to build societies that are developmental, capable, and ethical, and to honor our legacy. This is a forum of people, not of power. Let us remember, poverty is not only an economic statistic. It is a wound that we carry. Inequality is not only a gap, it is a fracture in our spirits. Sustainability is not only about the climate, it's about our children inheriting a world worth living in. South Africa's presidency has chosen to elevate the social summit because we cannot just make decisions in boardrooms. We must root it in our communities, in our lived realities, because we carry the burdens and the hopes of our societies. So this is the covenant we make today, that no voice is too small, no community too distant, and no future too fragile to be excluded from the table of global decision-making. Let's go.
Amandla. Amandla. Long live the G20 Social Summit, long live. Long live the people of the G20, long live. Thank you very much, Diabulela and Nkosi Kakhulu. Are you ready? Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can please take your seats. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We are now going to call up our next speaker. Amanda! Amanda! Amanda!
Okay, do this. You just read the name there. Then you say Amanda.
Okay. Kwame Nkrumah, Amanda! Julius Nyerere, Amanda!
Patrice.
Patrice Lumumba, Amanda! Nelson Mandela, Amandla. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take our seats, please.
These guys are
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to now call up our next speaker. If you can please take our seats, please. I'd like to now call up a representative of the AU. This is the CEO of AUDA NEPED, Her Excellency Nados Bekele Thomas. A round of applause as she comes up on stage, please.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, program directors. Your Excellency Paul Mashatile, Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa. Your Excellency and dear sister, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka, former Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa and co-convener of this G20 Social Summit. Your Excellency, former chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the true architect of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Honorable ministers from the government of South Africa, the Premier of Gauteng Province, Mr. Lesufi, Mayor from the City of Executive of Ekurhuleni, and mayor, another mayor that's there, you know, and all mayors anyway. We are all mayors, no? My dear sister, you know, the UN Assistant Secretary General and Director of the UNDP Regional Bureau for Africa, leading the UN team here. My brother, the ECOSOC Head of Secretariat, Mr. William Carew, thank you very much for representing the civil society, the African civil society organizations. Representatives from all civil society formations, wonderful people, loud but, you know, very strong people, bold people. I truly salute you. I truly salute you. You have decorated this gathering, I tell you. So this is so wonderful. Not only decorated, but I think your voices resonate with what we stand for. So we are grateful for you. Representatives from the private sector organizations and the philanthropy, academia, and development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I am really honored to address you today at this pivotal moment in the world, especially for our African continent, as South Africa hosts the very first G20 summit on African soil. Congratulations to the government of South Africa and to its people for your historic leadership and contributions in shaping the global development discourse through your distinguished chairship of the G20. I also want to applaud South Africa for its commitment to host this social summit, thereby continuing and expanding this people-centered platform as it plays a crucial role in bringing the voice of civil society and engagement groups to the table, allowing people from all walks of life to have a say in the outcomes of the G20. The G20 engagement groups have proven to be vital in the G20 conversations and we wholeheartedly salute them. The African Union Development Agency has been actively involved in several of them throughout this year, and we are really truly inspired by all your contributions. This role has offered an extraordinary opportunity to influence global policy on creating a new trade and investment deal for Africa, promoting stability in global trade, and fostering a climate-responsive trade system for all Africans. The African Union Development Agency has also actively participated in the G20 as a policy bridge tank member. Earlier this year, the Africa Policy Bridge Tank Program hosted a high-level policy dialogue under the theme, Strengthening African Agency in the G20 within the emerging global order, because we need a new global order, because we need a new global social order. And we had the great privilege of having His Excellency Deputy President Paul Mashatile honoring us with his presence and contributions. We also participated in shaping the recommendations in line with Africa's positions on harnessing the demographic dividend at the Y20 summit. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, from Copenhagen to Seville, Doha and now Johannesburg, the global social development journey shows a steady deepening of our collective ambition. Copenhagen in 1995 set the foundation by prioritizing poverty eradication, full employment, and social integration. 30 years later in Seville this year, the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development highlighted shrinking official development assistance and the urgency of sustainable domestic financing, while underscoring that investment in social sectors is not just mere expenditure, but a very vital investment and central to economic transformation. The recently concluded Doha World Summit for Social Development reaffirmed that global commitments to expanding social protection, ensuring access to education and health, and promoting productive and inclusive societies. Today, as we meet in Johannesburg at the G20 Social Summit, we are called to translate these commitments into concrete actions that truly put people at the center of development. Not talking, but walking the talk. And as we reflect on these global commitments, we must also reaffirm Africa's own long-term vision as articulated in Agenda 2063. And we thank Madam Dlamini Zuma, Dr. Dlamini Zuma, for really giving us the hope that is enshrined in Agenda 2063. Aspiration 1 reminds us of the Africa we are building, a prosperous continent grounded in inclusive growth and sustainable development. Here, inclusive is very important. We can have growth, but having the number of stakeholders increase, many people participating in the growth is of critical importance. And here, that is the struggle that civil society is fighting. That is the struggle the youth are fighting. That is the struggle women are fighting. And we need to support them. Equally, Aspiration 6 emphasizes an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential of women and youth, ensuring that social policies and economic opportunities reflect the needs and aspirations of its citizens. There should not be any plan that doesn't reflect the aspirations of the citizens, that doesn't reflect the needs of the youth, that doesn't reflect the needs of the women. These aspirations should not be just abstract ideas. They should be the blueprint that shape countries individually, but Africa in general, and its development trajectory, and which guides our collective action. Excellencies, in 2025, the world is confronting a set of structural pressures that are deepening vulnerabilities and reshaping the global development policy landscape. For the case of Africa, these pressures include a very young population, fragmented social protection systems, growing inequality, rising public debt, weak labor markets, heavy import dependency, escalating climate change, eroding citizen trust. And I repeat that, eroded citizen trust. Across our continent, we continue to witness governance challenges, including constitutional disruptions, pressures on democratic processes, and shrinking civil space. Shrinking civic space. This is the landscape of 2025. And it shouldn't be the landscape of 2025. One that underscores the need to strengthen resilience, deepen democratic consideration, and reinforce Africa's institutional architecture. We should not go backward, but we should move forward and at an accelerated pace. We need to emphasize this fundamental truth that there can be no development without peace and no peace without development. And ladies and gentlemen, since Africa's accession to the G20 as a full member in 2023, the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, has worked tirelessly to advance Agenda 2063, shaping not only how the world sees our continent, but also how we expect the world to engage with us and how we expect the world to see us as a partner and not as a donor-beneficiary partnership. We've made it clear that partnership with Africa must be grounded in mutual respect, accountability, solidarity, and sustainability. Excellencies, allow me to share with you just 3 significant interventions our African Union Development Agency is implementing to respond to the social challenges we face on the continent and to turn challenges into opportunities. The first one is we are investing almost 100 million into our African demographic dividend and sexual and reproductive health and rights program to advance the maternal, newborn, and child health agenda as a critical intervention in harnessing Africa's demographic dividend. And through this program, we have provided catalytic funding to member states and regional economic communities to strengthen governance, coordination, and integration, policy advancement through evidence-based research, which influences policymaking, as well as advancing high-level advocacy, capacity development, and technical assistance. Secondly, our Creating Opportunities for Youth and Women in Africa, the COEWA program, enhances the socio-economic empowerment of youth and women by strengthening their pathways to entrepreneurship, ensuring financial inclusion, and providing capacity-building interventions. With these instruments and more, like the skills initiatives, more young African entrepreneurs and women-led businesses are coming into the fold, learning modern business practices, accessing microfinance, and contributing to job creation. But also, we are supporting the strengthening of the work that we do on innovation, on creativity, and making sure that our young ones that start their enterprises, startups, are really shielded, protected, and nurtured to make sure that they become the lifeblood of our economy. And to this, I would really like to recognize my sister, Ahuna, who is there, who is leading a very important startup program. And together with our Energize Africa, we're thinking of having a policy to shield the startup programs in Africa and to make sure that these programs or these startups get a judicious mix of all the support that they require. including innovation hubs and accelerators that are there. But making sure that the standards are met, because it's not just enough to say that we have a program, but we need to have an African standard for African programs. And these standards should allow us to make sure that we get impact, we make impact and get results out of them. Lastly, to capacitate national and regional institutions, we deployed the Strengthening National Institutions Supporting Vulnerable Communities program, built on strengthening national and regional systems through technical advisory support, institutional coordination, and platforms that enable countries to share best practices and pool resources. Excellencies, I'm equally pleased to let you know that we are also in the final stage of establishing the African Union Development Fund, which is a fund by Africa for Africa, aimed at fast-tracking the realization of Agenda 2063. To operationalize this fund, we have already engaged with the Alliance of African Multilateral Institutions, the AMFI, and several African sovereign wealth funds and African social security funds to prepare for implementation, thereby leveraging on the continental capital institution expertise that we have in Africa and focusing on African ownership, sound governance, and financial sustainability. And bringing the African capital that is sitting outside there to make it to be useful to Africa and African transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, in this great African moment, let us choose Ubuntu. Ubuntu, 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 unity of purpose, and pursue development with unwavering hope. Let us remember that every dollar spent in social service systems, every clinic and school built in a rural village, and every loan given to a young entrepreneur is an investment in the Africa we want. With solidarity, equality, and sustainability as guiding principles, the Africa of shared prosperity, peace, and human dignity is within our grasp. An Africa where development is people-driven, unleashing the potential of every woman and youth can and will become a reality. We believe in Africa, we believe in Africans. We should believe in ourselves, and we would like to call on others to believe in us, because we are credible, we are unstoppable, we are the future. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
A round of applause for Her Excellency Bekele Thomas. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you would agree with me that what we are trying to achieve here today should feed into the Leaders Summit, but ultimately also to formal global multilateralism. So we have here a representative from the United Nations, and it is a delight for me to introduce, for us to hear remarks by UN Assistant Secretary General and Director of UNDP Regional Bureau for Africa, Ms. Ahuna Eziyankonwa, as she joins us on stage, please. A round of applause.
Thank you. I have to say my sister Nardas did a great job of recognizing the protocol, so I'm going to stand on the protocol that she so efficiently delivered. Excellencies, what a moment of joy. South Africa, oh yay! How proud we are of this country. Well done. You have set the tone. You have set the tone on this grand G20 platform, showing the world what moral courage looks like. Well done, South Africa. Africa is proud of you, and the United Nations is proud of you, because you have championed the core values of our common humanity: solidarity, equality, and sustainability. What could be more powerful at a time like this? A time of difficult paradox. Human progress has never been more technologically advanced, yet social inequality has rarely felt this deep. This is the moment, dear friends, that we're in. When the social contract weakens, society doesn't break all at once. It unthreads quietly, one family, one community, one worker at a time. That is why this summit is not a side event to the G20. It is the moral centerpiece. The social summit is the soul of the G20. It is the conscience. And we can feel it in this room. It's different. Because what we build for economies only matters if it works for people. The urgency of now. The world is experiencing 3 overlapping social emergencies: a cost of living and opportunity crisis, where wages and jobs no longer align with rising prices and expectations; a trust crisis between society and state, citizens and institutions, driven by a broken social contract; an identity crisis, a belonging crisis, where many feel development is happening above them, around them, not with them and for them. If this summit can help rethread dignity, inclusion, and fairness, then it would have succeeded in restoring trust in our human community. Yesterday, at the University of Johannesburg, I stood in a room with the chancellor of that university, my dear sister, Madam Phumzile. We were launching an initiative we call the University Innovation Pod, part of our Timbuktu initiative, which dear Nardos referred to. A hub, a space for our students to nurture their ideas into businesses that can change the world. You know, one of the young founders who spoke to us touched my heart, and she said something that stayed with me, that this space that we have created as UNDP with the university, the 15th that we have created in 15 countries so far, that it wasn't just helping her to build a product, it was helping her believe that she has what it takes to solve global problems. That statement isn't about technology, it's about belonging. It's about possibility, it's about agency, which are the true foundations of social development. Let me offer a framing for this summit. I frame it in the life of a woman called Thandi, living not far from here. She's a mother, she's a caregiver, and she's an informal entrepreneur. She has never read a G20 communique, but she lives every day the consequences of its lack of action in food prices, in transport fares, in electricity outages, in school fees, and in clinic queues. So I propose that every outcome of this summit must be a people's plan. It must pass the Thandi test. Will it improve dignity and daily well-being? Will it expand opportunity and security? Will it strengthen community resilience? Will it make people feel seen, valued, and protected? If not, then it is not social development, it is administrative motion. To move forward with clarity, we have to anchor this on three truths. One is that social protection is not charity, it's not cost, it's an investment. Safety nets must evolve into springboards that protect today and build capabilities for tomorrow. The second is that jobs, livelihoods, and skills for a just transition. Climate, digital, and economic transitions have to create jobs, not displace livelihoods. No transition is just if people are left forgotten at the doorstep of progress, as we heard from our dynamic poet at the beginning. The third is that digital and innovation inclusion should be for all. Technology must reduce exclusion. In fact, it must wipe it out, not deepen it. Digital public goods, connectivity, and the AI governance must be pro-poor, pro-youth, and pro-women by their design. Participatory governance and trust-based leadership has to be the guiding principle. People must be co-authors, not spectators, in shaping the future. When voice, transparency, and accountability rise, trust rises, and societies become stronger. So ladies and gentlemen who were making noise earlier, you don't need permission to make your voices heard. Keep those voices up. What is Africa's contribution? With its youthful population, creative talent, community resilience, and rapid innovation, Africa is not merely a beneficiary of social transformation, it is the source of new social solutions for the world. We are not starting from what we lack. We are starting from what we have. And what we have is in abundance. So, as I conclude, dear friends, brothers and sisters, history doesn't remember summits for their programs. It remembers what changed for people afterwards. If this social summit can help someone like Tandy experience security, if it can help a young innovator believe that she belongs, she's at the center, not in the margins, not in the periphery, if it can help a community move from survival to thriving, then this will not be just another summit. It will be the turning point. The United Nations stands ready with humility and conviction to walk with you, serve with you, and build with you. Because when people thrive, nations rise. So let us declare the moment that the Africa we want and deserve is the Africa the world needs. And it's all anchored on one word, Ubuntu. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a round of applause. As I prepare to call one of our main speakers, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to once again acknowledge her stewardship as the co-conveners of the Social Summit of the G20. They always say dynamite comes in small packages, ladies and gentlemen. Minister Kumbutso Chaveni was the youngest spokesperson of the Premier of Limpopo. She was also the youngest municipal manager to have served in local government. She's currently, ladies and gentlemen, the minister in the presidency, and responsible for a very unique, difficult, and complex responsibility, that of state security. She's an MBA graduate from the University of Bradford in the United Kingdom, and the co-steward of the Social Summit. Minister Chavani, we want to acknowledge your stewardship. Ladies and gentlemen, let me immediately call upon a protagonist of gender rights, a proponent, ladies and gentlemen, on the development of young women and children, the UN former Under-Secretary and the Executive Director of the UN Women, the current Chancellor of the UJ University, and the former Deputy President and steward of the co-steward of the G20 Social Summit, Honorable Your Excellency Deputy President Mlambo Ngcuka, to come and address this esteemed gathering. Malibongwe. Ikamalama kosikasi. Malibongwe. Ikamalama kosikasi. What it just means, ladies and gentlemen, that you strike a woman, you strike a woman, you strike a rock. Thank you very much. Let me just understand, where's the DP? DP, over to you, Dr. Mlambo Ngcuka. Over to you, Madam. Malibongwe.
Eyakho mama, elakho mama, ayibo, elakho mama, elakho mama, a elakho ntombi, a elakho ntombi, elakho mfana, elakho baba, elakho mama, elakho mama. Mandla, Amandla, viva civil society, viva. Viva G20, viva. Viva people living with disability, viva. Viva Lucha Youth, viva. Viva Nawe Kaban. Without taking too much time, I would like to welcome all of you to the G20 and to the G20 Social Summits in particular. I want to apologize for bad weather to our guests, but you know, it's improving. I also want to thank you for all the work you have done preparing for this summit. I greet our Deputy President and all the excellencies who are here, representative of the UN, of the AU, different multilateral organizations, and all our guests. I greet the excellencies and the ambassadors. I greet the shepherds of 2025 G20. Shame you can sleep now. I also greet, of course, the civil society and the different engagement groups who are here. You made this special, and we can't thank you enough. I also want to thank my co-convener, Minister Chavani, for the work we've done together. I am also very thankful to the ministers of the different departments in South Africa who in many different ways came through for us at different points in time, and the many players in private sector who made contributions and made sure that we are able to show out today. Let me also say, in this country of Nelson Mandela, in this place, Johannesburg, Gauteng, Pretoria, we have a premier who has worked very hard with his team and the mayors to make today possible. When South Africa assumed the presidency of the G20 during the summit held in Brazil in November 2024, our president made a promise that this social summit will continue, that in South Africa we will host the social summit because we believe in the voices of civil society, the guidance, as well as we acknowledge that our program will be nothing without the lived experience of those people we seek to collaborate with, to support, and of course, the people who are in many of our countries, who in many of our countries makes it possible for us to live and lead from day to day. It is for this reason, therefore, that we are so excited that so many of you were able to be here. In planning the G20 social, we wanted to, as much as possible, make sure that in the deliberations you will still have, but you've already had a lot of deliberations. We must make sure that we come with initiatives that will be sustainable. We recognize the fact that the G20 is not an organization that you can depend on for everything that we want done, but also we recognize the fact that as it changes from country to country, it also changes. But there are things we feel strongest about. So we should look at how we will ensure that we will implement those things, kai kapa kai. We also wanted to encourage the people who will be in the different deliberations that we will have today to make sure that what you choose to propose and recommend will have an impact. We also wanted to be sure that since this G20 is in Africa and we embrace the fact that this G20 is for Africa, it must be initiatives that will impact significantly on Africans, and we as Africans must also make sure these are things we can do for ourselves without dependency on many other contributors, even though, because this also is an area where solidarity is important, yes, we welcome solidarity, but at the end of the day, we should take the responsibility for making changes in our own lives. So I am, again, excited because I've listened to the work that has been done by different groups that quite a number of you have been able to address some of these concerns. As South Africa assumed the presidency of the G20 in Brazil, we also were concerned that the representatives of, in the case of the social summit, of civil society from Africa should be here, should contribute, and should go back home taking something out of this summit. Again, I am excited to see so many people from different parts of Africa. In fact, now we are almost reaching a point where we will be oversubscribed. So, who said this summit was boycotted? The outcomes of this summit must support the last 5 remaining years of the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. We must also support the vision that is enshrined in Agenda 2063, which was explained so well by my sister, Nados. All of that has to be reflected in the choices we will take and the recommendations we will make. I want to especially recognize with appreciation the contributions that have been made by Y20 in the conversations we have had, C20, the women, T20, and I also want to warmly appreciate those that are working with children and the children themselves who have been here. Because this is their world, this is their future. And actually, the children today know their story. And they are committed to be implementers of the programs and to make demands that they are willing to assist us implement and work for. As we start the 3 days, I would also want to encourage you that you think about what will happen next year. How will we ensure that what we've decided here is not lost along the way, just in case next year is not so cool? We must make sure that we've provided a cushion for the social summit so that at some point it will re-emerge in the format that we want it to continue to grow. So as I conclude, I would like to remind you that Africa is not poor. It has more than 50% of the world's arable land, so we shouldn't be having poverty and hunger. Africa is not poor. We should be able to industrialize because we have 30% of the world's critical minerals. If Africa is not doing well, it is because we are not providing leadership. So today, while we are here, in these 3 days, while we are here, all of us, we should really look at how we make sure that we start the new order with each one of us taking the responsibility to lead. Governments, civil society, business, institutions, because it is only when we lead together with purpose that will give birth to the Africa we want, the Africa we dream of. Thank you.
Aye, yeah, Africa, aye, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me that also cultural diplomacy is very important, even in gatherings like this. So as we're ready to continue with our program, we'd like to just introduce a group who will give us some musical entertainment before we continue with the following addresses and remarks. I'd like to introduce the Paxton group. Round of applause as they usher us into some entertainment.
G20 Social Summit. How are you guys doing? My name is Paxton. I'm a proudly South African singer-songwriter, and this is my song, Angifuni. What is this, another missed call? Do you know you be calling me in the middle of the night? Yeah. Come on. What is it that he's looking for? Do you know when he's calling you, his eyes are out for me? So put a leash in your neck, girl, and hold on to him tight, and hold on to him tight, yeah. 'Cause he's the one that's flirting with me. He's the one who's messaging me. He's the one who keeps telling me, yeah. Angifuni ndoto yako. Angifuni ndoto yako. Ah, angifuni ndoto yako. Don't be so spicy. And he's the one who's dicey, yeah. Don't be so spicy when it's the one who's messy, yeah. Here we go again. Now he's calling up my feet, trying to get to me. So what you gonna say? You're gonna say I'm lying. I am the one who's trying. But let me tell you something, I don't take no second hand. So put a leash in your man, girl. Hold on to him tightly, hold on to him tightly. Cause he's the one that's flirting with me, he's the one who's messaging me, he's the one who keeps calling me, yeah. I'm feeling the day I go. I'm feeling the day I go. Don't be so spicy. Who's the one who's spicy? Yeah. Don't be so spicy. Who's the one who's spicy? Yeah. I don't want, no. I don't want. I give you food in your day. I don't want. I give food in your day. This is one of my favorite South African songs. My Like Our Destiny. If you know the words, please sing with me.
of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the Paxton group. They were excellent. Even the traditional and the Khoisan leadership were dancing. Bad things are happening in South Africa, ladies and gentlemen. Andikonde. But thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. They say music is the universal language of the mankind, and of Africans in particular. At this stage, ladies and gentlemen, we want to ask everyone, Uguti, to observe protocol. At this moment, ladies and gentlemen, the leader of government business, when we assumed the G20 presidency, cautioned us that foreign policy used to be a state-centric responsibility. But he said to us, ladies and gentlemen, that the G20 presidency of South Africa should encapsulate both the state, but more importantly, must have a defining presence of non-state actors, of civil society, of your traditional and your Khoisan leadership, as we seek to alter the economic and financial architecture of this world. Allow me to call to the front the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, the leader of government business, Honorable Your Excellency, Deputy President Paul Mashatile, to address us. Long live the Deputy President, long live. Long live South Africa, long live. Siyabambile South Africa, siyabambile. Siyabambile G20, siyabambile. Thank you very much, DP. Enkosi kakhulu.
Mandla. Mandla. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you. Program directors, Deputy Minister Alvin Botes and Luanda Mpongose, co-conveners of the G20 Social Summit, our former Deputy President, Her Excellency, Deputy President Lambo Nguga, and Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Kumbutso Nchabeni, the small dynamite. Let me recognize the Premier of the province of Gauteng, Mr. Panyaza Lusufi Hoi Hoi. He is not alone, he is accompanied by members of the Executive Council, the MECs, and also members of the legislature of Gauteng. There are also other premiers who are with us today from other provinces,
and other members of the executive committees and provincial legislatures. Let me also recognize the executive mayor of the city of Ekurhuleni, Councillor Nkosi Ndipindile Tagaza, who is our host, but had to leave for an urgent engagement. All other mayors here present from other cities, we also recognize you. Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Refilwe Motsweni Tsipani, former AU Chairperson, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, UN Assistant Secretary General and Director of UNDP, Regional Bureau for Africa, Ms. Ahuma Aziokonwa, Resident Coordinator of the UN in South Africa, Mr. Nelson Mufu, His Excellency Nados Bekele, Thomas, who's also CEO out at NEPAD in African Union, African Civil Society Head Secretariat, Ambassador William Carey, Chairperson of the C20, Mr. Tulani Chifuta. Let me also recognize all our ministers and deputy ministers who are present here today, excellencies, ambassadors, members of the diplomatic corps, our traditional and Khoisan leadership who are here with us, led by Nkosi, Deputy Chairperson of the National House, Nkosi Langamavuso. Let's also recognize our interfaith leaders who are present here with us. Kamalenkosi Malbo. I want also to recognize the shepherds of the 2025 G20, distinguished representatives of the international organizations who are here with us, coordinators of the thematic areas, directors generals, CEOs of our state institutions, city managers, and all government officials who are here with us, distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. Inhlikani, Ndimasiari, Goeiemiddag. Good things are happening in South Africa. Good things are happening in Africa. Program directors, on behalf of His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, the government, and the people of South Africa, I would like to begin by extending a very warm welcome to both local and international delegates to Ekurhuleni, the host city of the 2025 G20 Social Summit in South Africa. Our country is honored by your presence, and I can assure you that you will enjoy South Africa's hospitality, which is founded and shaped by the traditional African philosophy of Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a profound African philosophy rooted in the idea that our individual humanity is deeply connected to the humanity of others. This interconnectedness is often encapsulated in the saying, Umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. I am because you are. This saying suggests that one's existence and identity are shaped by communal relationships and shared experiences. The core similarities between the Ubuntu philosophy and the objectives of the G20 Social Summit lied in their shared emphasis on interconnectedness, collective responsibility, solidarity, and the pursuit of social justice and equality for all people. Recognizing that South Africa is, because of Africa, our G20 presidency embraces the Afrocentric leadership model that highlight inclusivity, participation, and consultation. Through this model, we value inclusivity, harmony, and interconnectedness while focusing on creating a lively and energetic representation of shared aspirations of a united Africa. In the same spirit of communal responsibility, solidarity, engagement, and consultation, South Africa initiated an inclusive national dialogue, a people-driven, society-widespread to reflect, reset, and reimagine South Africa's future. Through the national dialogue, the aim is to collectively address significant challenges facing the country, such as poverty, inequality, and social divisions. This process began with the first national convention, which we held in August of this year, where an agenda for nationwide public dialogues was set. Ultimately, this initiative is expected to culminate in a second national convention, which we will hold next year, June in 2026, at a social compact outlining directives for the next 30 years, to come. Therefore, program directors, this moment is crucial for South Africa, symbolizing not only its national objective, but also the aspiration of the African continent, as outlined in Agenda 2063, the African Union Strategic Framework and Action Plan to transform Africa into an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful continent. The African Union's membership in the G20 is pivotal for implying African perspective within the global economic financial landscape. Our goal, program directors, is to integrate African voices into global governance, striving for a more equitable, sustainable future consistent with the vision of the AU Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. This G20 Social Summit therefore provides us with an unprecedented opportunity to highlight the African agenda and the concerns of the global South inside the world's most platform for international economic agenda and cooperation. Your Excellencies, despite its vast potential, Africa remains underdeveloped, with many communities still striving and living in poverty and enduring ongoing displacements due to recurring political, economic, environmental, and security challenges. We believe it is time for Africa to advocate for lasting peace, commitment to resolving conflicts through negotiated political settlements. When we achieve peace and political stability, we as Africans are better positioned to secure sustainable financing, debt relief, fairer trade, and stronger representation in economic governance, thereby advancing both sustainable development goals and the Agenda 2063. The foundation of South Africa's G20 presidency is its commitment to strengthening and reforming international financial architecture, as well as deepening international economic cooperation. That forms part of the efforts to address the North-South divide and the persistent poverty, inequality, and underdevelopment, especially in the developing world. Ladies and gentlemen, what is equally crucial is that the G20 Social Summit presents South Africa with a strategic opportunity to frame global policy discussions around young people's capacities to drive inclusive economic development, inclusion, and sustainability. This presents an opportunity for the continent to take charge of its development. It is a call to reshape the global order towards justice, equity, and sustainability through the leadership and capabilities of our young people. I want to say to the young people here today, remind you of your slogan, Uzoitola kanjani? Uzoitola kanjani? It is commendable that through the Y20 communique, African youth have effectively delivered directly youth-driven recommendation to G20 leaders, influencing policy and decision-making. Their active participation in the Y20 and Social Summit positions them as vital contributors to the creation of sustainable and inclusive global future. Another issue that we must assertively address at this summit is our collective effort to combat gender-based violence. Gender-based violence continues to be one of Africa's most pressing and severe social issues, eroding dignity, security, and economic engagement of women, children throughout our communities. As we participate in this G20 Social Summit, it is important that we leverage the international platform to raise awareness and enhance accountability and coordinate action. We urge the international community to address the enduring and emergent obstacles to gender equality with renewed urgency, solidarity, and innovation. Kamalama Kosigas. Kamalama Kosigas. Program directors, I must further indicate that the growth of the Global South and the changing patterns of international cooperations illustrates significant shifts in global power dynamics impacting the current generation. Essentially, this points to a multipolar shifts in global power. The Global South is increasingly asserting its voice, with institutions such as BRICS and the African Union, along with the G20 presidency, highlighting a consensus that development should be inclusive, focused on people, and driven by the youth. This situation presents a collective opportunity to reshape global discourse by emphasizing that Africans are not merely passive recipients of aid or policy, but active agents of innovation, enterprise, and governance. This being the second G20 Social Summit, we must acknowledge its importance as a forum that will guarantee that international leaders receive direct input from the people prior to making significant decisions. As you know, that the leaders will start meeting on Saturday and Sunday, we will make sure that the declarations of this summit gets to the table of the discussion of the leaders to be considered. Program directors, building on Brazil's 2024 G20 presidency, South Africa maintains the importance of the G20 Social Summit as a vehicle for advancing the voice of civil society and other non-state actors in the agenda and declaration of the G20. I have pleasantly observed that the lead up to this summit has been marked by unwavering rigor, inclusion, and determination from sectors of international civil society, ensuring that their voices find meaningful expression in the G20 agenda. Distinguished guests, we all know that South Africa's 2025 G20 presidency is guided by the theme solidarity, equality, and sustainability. This theme underscores the significance of social justice, inclusive development, and multilateral fairness as fundamental principles of global governance. It demonstrates a shared commitment to creating a world where cooperation transcends borders and fosters inclusive global economic growth. Acknowledging the fact that the world we live in is currently grappling with a multiple of challenges, where there is a complex interplay between competition and threats around the globe. As we endeavor to make international cooperation a reality, we remain inspired by the words of the world-renowned economist and Nobel laureate Angus Deaton, who reminds us, and I quote, "International cooperation is vital to keeping our globe safe, commerce flowing, and our planet habitable." These words emphasize the necessity of global collaboration for security, economic stability, and environmental sustainability. South Africa believes that our challenges are inherently transnational, meaning that no single nation can solve them alone. Instead, international cooperation facilitates the pooling of resources, knowledge, and efforts to address these interconnected issues. We must continuously find ways to building bridges and to build common ground. Working together is key to building a better future with solutions that fit our unique challenges. Program directors, this year's G20 Social Summit should be about developing solutions while serving as a platform for fostering collaboration between state and non-state actors to advance sustainable global partnership for development. Most notably, and hence South Africa's cooperation should become a practical reality, reinforced by tangible North-South cooperation. The 2025 G20 main priority is to call for global collective partnership and action, while emphasizing the achievement of inclusive growth, sustainable development, technological transformation, and addressing global challenges such as climate change and socio-economic inequalities. The other overarching priorities are as follows: strengthening disaster resilience and response, ensuring debt sustainability for low-income countries, mobilizing finance for a just transition, and harnessing critical minerals for inclusive growth and sustainable development. The previous speakers emphasized this point that South Africa is not poor. We've got minerals, we've got arable land, and therefore we don't deserve to be poor. We need to use our land and our minerals to benefit Africans. Program directors, to drive this agenda, we have introduced three cutting tasks. Three cross-cutting task forces, bridging the Sherpa and finance tracks, namely, Task Force 1 is on inclusive economic growth, industrialization, employment, and reduce inequality. Task Force 2 on food security, and Task Force 3 on artificial intelligence, data governance, and innovation for sustainable development. Beyond this, South Africa is progressing with a broadened compact with Africa 2.0, which aims to enhance the continent's development priorities by integrating them into the global economic agenda. The broadened compact with Africa 2.0 represents a key strategic initiative designed to advance economic transformation and foster technological innovation in African countries by promoting private investments and policy reform. This initiative builds upon the foundation established during the German presidency, emphasizing a collaborative approach to Africa's economic development. Program directors, the Social Summit, therefore, focuses on 5 thematic areas as follows: digital inclusion and equitable transformation, trade resilience and inclusive value chain, inclusive climate change and just transition and energy democracy, a just and sustainable finance and international finance architecture, and building momentum for the achievement of the SDGs and Agenda 2063. These thematic areas maintain their significance in facilitating strong discussions and delivering actionable recommendations from global civil society regarding the inclusive future direction of the G20 and its social summit. As I've mentioned earlier, the G20's future direction, particularly under our South African presidency, aims to address deep-seated global inequalities and challenges with a strong emphasis on the needs of Africa and the global South. It is incumbent upon leaders of the world's largest economies to rise to the occasion to lead by example and to chart a course towards a more sustainable, equitable, and peaceful world. With its rich history of overcoming adversity and deep commitment to social justice, South Africa stands ready to play its part in this noble endeavor. From our struggles against apartheid to our ongoing efforts to combat poverty, inequality, and discrimination, we have shown time and time again that progress is possible when we stand together, united in purpose and driven by a shared vision of a better future. For us, collaboration and solidarity are not just aspirations, they are necessities for shaping more inclusive, equitable, sustainable global future. As we engage in discussions in the coming days, we must remember the billions of lives at stake, the aspirations of unborn children, and our profound responsibility to leave behind a world that surpasses the one we inherited. Let us commit ourselves to concrete actions, bold initiatives, and transformative policies that will bring about change and create opportunities for all. Program directors, as I conclude, I am confident that by working together, harnessing the power of collaboration, and embracing the values of solidarity and empathy, we can overcome even the greatest challenges and build a future that is brighter, fairer, and more sustainable for generations to come. I'm confident that this social summit will serve as a platform for fostering cooperation, collaboration between state and non-state actors in advancing a sustainable global partnership for development. It will surely incorporate the voices of civil society into the G20 decision-making process, promote global solidarity, advance inclusive development, and ultimately produce a declaration that accurately reflects the aspiration and reality of all citizens. That's why we regard this social summit as so important, because it brings together the voices of ordinary people. Program Director, I wish to express sincere appreciation to all the engagement groups and social partners who have invested their time, their expertise, and energy in developing concrete proposals and declarations in the lead up to this G20 Social Summit. These collective efforts will not only strengthen the Social Summit declaration that we will adopt on Thursday, which you will formally present to President Cyril Ramaphosa at the closing session of this summit on the 20th of November, which is Thursday. But it will also meaningfully inform and shape the G20's leaders' summit declaration that they will adopt on Sunday. They will help to embed social justice, inclusion, and sustainable development at the heart of the G20 agenda going forward. We call on all actors to maintain their engagement beyond formal adoption of the G20 declaration by remaining actively involved in tracking and assessing the implementation of commitments. Ladies and gentlemen, in doing so, you will help drive timely adjustments and ensure that G20 decisions leads to tangible, measurable progress in people's lives. Once again, we welcome all of you to South Africa, the land of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. I wish you fruitful deliberation and contributions to the outcome documents of the 2025 G20 Social Summit. With those few words, I want to once again thank you very much, Kensa Inko.
Thank you very much, Comrade Tipi. Asante san, merci beaucoup. Kike, obrigado muito. Thank you very much, Deputy President of South Africa, for that commitment, ladies and gentlemen, that he made, that the work from the Social Summit will be integrated into the draft Leaders' Declaration. Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, we wanted just to take you through the program. We have been advised that the organizers have sent QR codes to all delegates. So if there is any delegate whose phone is not compatible with the advancement of cellular technology, please remain behind so that the organizers can either airdrop you a copy of the program, or you would be able to screenshot a copy of the program. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, immediately when we adjourn from this plenary venue, there is a number of side events on the margins that will be taking place up until 6 o'clock today. At 6 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen, all of you will be expected to come back to the main plenary hall just for the conclusive discussions of today. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, we have what we call different working groups in thematic areas. So the expectations, once again, is that all delegates to the summit will arrive to the main plenary hall, which is here in the morning. And thereafter, ladies and gentlemen, different delegates from the different engagement groups, from the different thematic groups, will then be assigned to the engagement. So tomorrow, in essence, based on the program, it's a full working day tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. And then on Thursday, we do expect addresses, ladies and gentlemen, by the member of the G20 Troika and the former G20 president. So we expect the president of Brazil, President Lula, to address the social summit on Thursday morning. That address, ladies and gentlemen, will be complemented by the address from the head of state of South Africa, the current G20 president and the president of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, where the president will, of course, ladies and gentlemen, reflect on the work that you have done over the past 2 days. And the drafting team have been given a very explicit mandate to ensure that the areas the president will speak about is reconcilable with the work and some of the draft resolutions from the thematic groups. So we obviously want to thank every one of you, and at this moment, Luanda, I have been asked that you will be introducing the minister that will do the concluding remarks. But she have taken me in confidence, ladies and gentlemen, that the minister has been very prescriptive of how to introduce him to this particular constituency. So I'm all ears and all eyes. Over to you.
No pressure. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome the Minister in the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, the custodian of all the entertainment that you've been hearing here today, and all the entertainment that you'll be hearing throughout this week. Also the custodian of the bunch of winners, the sports groupings that you see winning on the world stages. I'm talking Banyana Banyana, Bafana Bafana, and our Springboks. A round of applause as we welcome Minister Gayton McKenzie for the vote of thanks.
Deputy President, President Paul Mashatile, we want to thank you for your leadership and taking the time today to be with all of us here. I would also like to thank the organizers that put this together and everybody else that worked alongside them, former Deputy President, President Tumzile, and Minister Nsaveni. I would also like to thank my colleagues, all the ministers that are here today. Would also like to thank the civil society that are here today. We would also like to thank the religious, God-fearing community that's here today. God is on the throne. We would like to thank the DG Baleni. We would like to thank my old friend, hoi hoi, Pajaza Lisufi, and to everybody that put this together, I want to say to you, aware. And for me, DP, allow me to say two things. I was so happy today to see Dr. Dlamini. Very happy to see her. She's getting younger and younger, very young. And I see the premiers also here of Mpumalanga and the place of the sun. To all the ambassadors that's here, to all the people that's here, I want to say to you today, DP, allow me to end with these three things. Number one, for me, all the traditional leaders that are here, I want to say it's a very big thing for me to see the Khoi and the San people taking part of the G20. DP, they were mobilized to boycott the G20. And they said, Amase, we are not going to boycott the G20. I want to thank them. Thank you, my leaders, for helping to build and to point out where we are doing wrong instead of listening to the voices of doom to try and boycott. So we thank you, Amase. DP, I want to say, as South Africans, I want to say to every South African, it is the social summit where we hear your voice. We are not where we want to be, but I want to assure you, we are not where we used to be. The rand has stabilized. Inflation is at its lowest ever. And the most important thing for me is that in the third quarter, we are no longer losing jobs, but we've created 300,000 jobs in the third quarter. So G and you, yasebetsa. Leave the people. And I must warn you, there are political leaders going around telling young people they must go to the street. Young people should go to school. If you want young people in the street, you must send your own children to go to the street and leave other people's children. They can say a lot. At the G20, we are united. When we talk one or two things that's out of line, it's just because we see the cameras. But there behind the scenes, re a utlana monate, re a sebetsa monate, re a aga South Africa, kaofela. And I've got one message to those that want to derail the progress of President Cyril Ramaphosa and Deputy President Paul Mashatile. I want to say to them, the people in this world today, they came together to help build and to fix where it is wrong. You that are declaring unnecessary complaints and not helping us, I want to say to you, we love this country, and the ones that don't love the country, haba emele murao, magwala acheche le murao. We're magwala acheche. We are Runa.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, announcement on the protocol as it relates to food will be done by Luanda, and then we will immediately hand over to the final artist that will be actually the curtain raiser for this particular session. Over to you, sis.
Thank you very much, co-pilots. Ladies and gentlemen, as we do need to replenish our stomachs, at different points in the day, even tomorrow and Thursday, kindly note that you can come for your meals just outside this venue, which is Terminal A. At any point for your teas, coffees, and lunches, you may just report to this room. And I suppose that this is it for us, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, David, you can come over, David Klopper, for the artist. Ladies and gentlemen, can we just rise for the Deputy President, and then I think we will remain seated after that for the artist to render his contribution. Thank you very much.
1, 2, 1, 2. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello.
Give me high five.
Hello. Hello. How are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Let's play the track, it's fine. Yeah. 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 Listen. Yeah. 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 Listen.
What if God will do it? What if you can get through it? What if you give it another chance and maybe this time you won't blow it up? What if God blow it up? But they come in the door. You don't swim against the current, so you're going with the flow. Your life is like a roller coaster, going fast and then slow. Where your mind is always drunk, your heart is never sober. Your legs are always tired when you enter a race. Or maybe you're just content being in second place. Or maybe you don't want to be a disgrace, cause every time you run towards something you fall on your face. You got your walls up and your head down, but you gotta chin up and pick up your dusty crown. Phenomenal, incredible, exceptional you are. Looking for a home where you don't have to search far. I got great news, and it's for you. I know what God can do, what only He can do. Be crazy for Christ, never screw loose. Kick away those tools that try to fix you. What if God will do it? What if you can get through it? What if you give it another chance and maybe this time you won't blow it? What if God will do it? What if you can get through it? What if you give it another chance and maybe this time you won't blow it? Sit back and relax. Watch God do what He does best. Sit back and relax. Watch God do what He does best. Sit back and relax. Watch God do what He does best. Sit back and relax. Watch God do what He does best. Why does darkness define your identity? Why do you act like Christ never came to set you free? Greatness oozes through your body, something that you don't wanna see, something that you don't believe. You gotta seize these moments. You gotta make Christ your homie. Pick up your device and pray, you can phone Him. You don't believe me? Go and ask Moses. You got your walls up and your head down, but you gotta chin up and pick up your dusty crown. Phenomenal, incredible, exceptional you are. Looking for a home where you don't have to search far. I got great news, and it's for you. I know what God can do, what only He can do. Be crazy for Christ, never screw loose. Kick away those tools that try to fix you. What if God will do it? What if you can get through it? What if you give it another chance and maybe this time you won't blow it? What if God will do it? What if you can get through it? What if you give it another chance and maybe this time you won't blow it? Sit back and relax. Watch God do what He does best. Sit back and relax. Watch God do what He does best. Sit back and relax. Watch God do what He does best. Sit back and relax. Watch God do what He does best.
Next track. Next track. Yeah. Yeah, listen, yeah, dance to me. Let's go, yeah,